Hey, this is Ben Solomon, and welcome to this episode of the Techno Leadership Show. In this episode, we are going to be talking about how to analyze your weaknesses and mitigate them to grow in your career and your life. As in the previous video, I was meant to just do the strengths, but I do understand I did pull in a couple of weaknesses as well. But in this episode, we'll just work straight up on the weaknesses and how, for the ones at least that we look at, we can look at how to put mitigating things in place, like skills, whatever it might be, just as a baseline as to how you can utilize whatever comes in your results for your benefit. So with that, let me go to the browser window, and here we are, back to the same old ones. So we're back to the ISFJ, and in this case, as we saw, the weakness is being humble and shy in this case, which means they don't go seeking for recognition, but their manager, leader needs to understand that they need to be, given some form of recognition regardless. Although these people are usually behind the scenes, making sure everything's working as it should, and not going out there and pumping themselves and showing off and doing all sorts of things. As human beings, we all need some form of significance and recognition. So as a leader, if you're in the manager's role and you have people like this in your team, please make sure that they are taken care of. They are given every bit of recognition that you can. Send out, as part of emails or other comms that you might send out to all staff on the work that these people do behind the scenes. Make sure their contribution is recognized. But if you're the one who's humble and shy, look, maybe you don't want to make a big fuss about it, but at least when you have one-on-ones with your leader, when your manager, let them know, show them your contribution and ask them if there's anything else that can be done, so that it's not like a bragging thing of saying, hey, look, I've done this, which I know you wouldn't. But just to highlight, saying, look, thank you for giving me the responsibility. I was able to do this way. Wondering if there's any other thing that I can take on. So it's not directly pointing and saying, look at me, sort of thing. But at the same time, it's saying, look, I was able to achieve this, and the team or the company benefited because of that. Have a bit of courage to be able to talk about it. Don't always, you are naturally inclined to take care of others more than yourself, but also find ways to take care of yourself. It may not just be at work. In other sense, doing things that you enjoy, maybe getting a massage a couple of times a month, maybe doing something else for yourself, because that is the way you recharge your batteries and then come back and contribute even more. And we talked about things too personally, having open communication with people in your team and people who are your managers, leaders, helps that as well. Then repressing feelings. Well, there is a tendency for people at this type to repress their own feelings so that they can help others, but I think there are times when they have to openly go, look, you've hurt me by saying or doing this. Now let's work in a more transparent, open manner so that we can get to a situation where it's healthy and where there's open dialogue between people. And if someone has said something that they feel like's hurt them, they need to openly take it up. Look, the way you approached me or the way you said something has hurt me. Can you please make sure that, even if it was meant to be a joke, please don't do it in that sense. So you need to have a little bit of courage to sort of, building up some strength and some ability to go, and it may not be directly conflict, but, confront people if you feel like they've hurt you in some way. And taking too much on yourself, well, it's a thing that you've got to work on. Look at your workload. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't then take care of others. So making sure that you distribute your workload, or make sure your manager knows that you have a tendency to overload yourself, so that they can take things off your plate and distribute the workload in such a way that is effective for you and for the whole team. Reluctance for change, again, which means make sure you don't end up in a startup style environment where you've got to, be ready for change every day, every minute, every hour, sort of thing. So those are things like you have to put yourself in the right environments that don't hurt your weaknesses, and also you need to build some skills where you can not allow these weaknesses to affect you. So if you go to DISC, for example, if you're a high C with a trailing S, you're great at the details, but not always great at the big picture. That doesn't mean you can't learn how to think big picture, and that in some sense means stepping back out from the details and going, okay, how does this affect the overall system? You might be putting in a new server, for example, and you might be doing all the work in detail to make sure it's perfectly done. But understanding the big picture of how does that particular server that you're setting up or the component that you're installing affect the bigger picture allows you to then see the contribution, see the things that it impacts, and make the best possible decision in the longer term for the big picture outcomes that you are probably not naturally gifted in seeing. But when you start seeing the bigger picture, you also start to understand and appreciate your strengths and how your detail orientedness is allowing for the bigger picture to be accomplished. Enneagram, again, it says, in depth, healthy person, healthy. So in this case, there is a sense for the sixes to become extremely paranoid and suspicious. So when that sort of thing happens and you become hyper vigilant, you need to make sure that it doesn't pull you down into a spiral and make you become suspicious of everyone and everything. And that means not feeding confirmation bias and ensuring that you are looking at both sides of the story, ensuring that you are looking for evidence to the opposite of what you believe, which is a difficult thing to do. Big five again. Let's say you're high in this. As I said in the previous video, look for an environment that's more bureaucratic, government organizations, and big organizations that don't move too fast. Whereas if you're high in this, you'd want to be working in a startup or a high growth, high agile team. And that applies pretty much to every other aspect as well. Like if you look at this, if you're a mechanic, you'd want to be working in an environment that where you're looking at improvements rather than continuously creating new systems, new projects, new everything. You'd want someone who is a creator to initiate new projects in that sort of sense. And if you're a high fact finder, make sure you're in a role where you have the autonomy and freedom to be able to take time to think about things, to do all the research that you need to ensure that everything is done perfectly on best practices and following systems. If you're high up here, to ensure that all governance practices are followed. So you'd be best fit in a bureaucratic, slow organization like government organizations, huge organizations that have large teams and have enough space for people to be able to think and make decisions in that sense. But if you're someone who's high quick start, you'd want to be in like a startup environment where decisions have to be made quickly and be agile. And similarly, all of these things also means in life. If you're someone who is a quick start, people in your life need to know that you make decisions quickly, and to them it might seem like you're an impulsive person, but it's not. That's your natural mode of operation. And so you might need to have, let's say, a person who's an accountability partner where you say, look, anytime I'm going to make a decision, I'm going to have a chat with you. I want you to pull me up, and ensure that I'm making those decisions on sound principles and sound information, and have that sort of backup in your life, whether that's your partner, that's your spouse, that's your friend, parent, whatever it might be. Have someone in there. And similarly, for all of these strengths and weaknesses, there are mitigative strategies for your life that you can have, people in your life, and other resources, skills that you can develop that'll help you ensure that you get the most out of your strengths and mitigate your weaknesses so that they don't pull you down. So I wish you all the best in your career journey and in your life. And if you enjoyed this episode and would like to hear more such information that'll help you in your life and in your technology career growth, please do subscribe to the channel, and also visit technoleadership.org for more resources. And I look forward to talking to you in a future episode. Have a great day. See you.